Hello, everyone. I remember being a kid and playing with toys, and I remember having a pretty decent amount of G.I. Joes. And when I would play G.I. Joes, I always had this script where I say script, but it was, just sort of how what appealed to me at the time was this idea if I'd find my favorite G.I. Joe guy and he would be the last remaining, on Hamburger Hill shooting the bad guys until he died. I always, um, and I've always been one of those types that, uh, I, I kind of like the movies and they're rare, where the good guy it dies, like the noble sacrifice. And I'm not sure exactly why I felt the need to share that, other than that you sort of feel like that, a bit today. And um, I don't mean to sound like you're like this is the end, or to be pessimistic in that way or negative or anything like that. I actually want to try to be more positive. I want to sort of take where we're at, kind of explain, I don't know, my opinion about what's going on, what I see, and express how I see the battle of good versus evil playing out before us. What you can focus on the negative, but one of the benefits of where we're at right now and what we're seeing in our society is transparency. We, I think, are seeing um, we're definitely not living in a land of honesty, or a land of a time of honesty, a time of forthrightness. Um, but nonetheless, I think we're sort of getting that anyway. Everybody's, sort of coming out of, there. I guess the gray area is much more smaller than I remember it being, and I think that could be a good thing. I think one of the things too I want to sort of get across is this idea of polarization, and how that concept has changed for me recently. As I've been to thinking about, I have for some time thought of myself, or thought of polarization as a negative, and I'm kind of rethinking that at this point. I know that it can lead to tribalism, but I don't know that that's not inevitable. And I want you to hear me out a little bit on this, because and I'm not meaning anything in regards to like a war, stance or anything like that. I just mean because we're in a culture war, I think, and everybody's taking sides, and that's what I mean about this transparency and this polarization. So what's happening is that it's becoming clearer what side you're on. And even though right now it looks like evil's winning, I think that I can see some positives here. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that, and also like um, what's happened so far since the last time I've been on, as far as like the Biden administration, and how we can see that culture, or what we can see the effects, or what it looks like the effects of the radical left is, looks to attempt to be on our culture. But I want to focus a little bit on this idea of tribalism, or not tribalism, but polarization. And so regardless, we're being defined. Um, we're being cordoned off into shirts and skins, for lack of a better analogy. And you have no choice, right? But so what do we do? What, what's the practical? So I'm a Christian, right? So and obviously, as an example with, just the way free speech has gone, Trump is the point of the spear, right? They're going to get rid of Trump from, and it won't just be freedom of speech. It's going to be, there's I heard banks are going to start going after his wealth. Um, every way possible, character assassination, which they've been doing that from the start, but everything that they can do to metaphorically murder somebody, that is what they are going to do to Donald Trump. And I would say that that's pretty much what's going to come the way of the Christian, because Trump, uh, they will define Trump, and then those who Trump appeals to, and then those who Trump appeals to will also uh, bleed over into the church, and it'll be instant. I mean, there won't be a delay in that. I mean, they've already gone after churches. We saw this in with the COVID, right? Strip clubs, Walmart, fine, but the church. You could get COVID there. You can get COVID at church, but not at the strip club or Walmart. So you see, any opportunity that the left can take to go after the church, they will take it. And this is because they are the enemies of the church. And this is why I've been on this concept, or this subject of saying to people who, these woke Christians, this is one of the things that I think might be a benefit too. You're going to get woke. You're going to get woke because you're going to have to choose. They're not going to allow you to sit and straddle this fence where you compromise the Bible in all the social ways that they demand. What they're going to, and they're not going to be, it's never enough for the cultural cannibals of our time. They will come after you, and they will make you um, choose a side. They will not allow you to straddle that fence. I don't think they will. I mean, I don't think that's going to be the way it works. And so, the strategy, I think, uh, for the Christian is something, I think, that is utterly Christian, and um, maybe unexpected. Um, I think I mentioned this in the last video. This idea, like, you know, what do you do? Like, when you feel this way, like, what do you do? And inside, you almost feel like doing what the people who rushed the Capitol did, but you see what that gets you. Um, so I think the proper thing to do is to just go, okay, you guys, if this is what you want, um, if this is, you know, think about what the the political philosophy of the day is for the left. It's socialism. Like, they've come out and said that basically they're socialists. Remember, remember a time back when, if you said that, if you called them that, they acted like you were uh, you were calling them racist or something. Now they just embrace it. It's what they've always been. Now they feel more comfortable, um, in revealing their true self. But with that comes this idea. So what is socialism? I mean, obviously that is, it comes with this idea that you're going to basically socially engineer from the top, you know, trickle down, um, trickle down structure. It's not organic. It's the best of us, like those atop of us are the best of us. I mean, that's the start of the joke right there. Um, but they who are masters will Now it's not presented this way, obviously. This is my version of it, or this is my perspective of it. Our masters tell us and instruct us and arrange things for us, in a way that, uh, you know they say is best for us. It's correct. This is the correct way, political correct. So that, I mean, you can see that political correctness has been around for a long time, and how that fits very well in there because it's always been the motive. It's always been the goal. So what do you do, right? What do you do? I'm a Christian, and it's almost, in a way, I'm almost doing it already. So I have this angst to sort of, um, feel like I need to do something, right? And but I think the proper thing to do is to check out, you know, as much as you can. Check out. There's things that the left has. There's institutions. As much as possible, just go, okay. It's perverted. It's twisted. It's broken. And so it's not for me. You know, I'm going to just, I'm going to become as much like the Amish, I guess, as possible. I'm not, I'm not going to give up electronics at this point, but I can see the brilliance behind it. I can see how, I I bet the Amish are doing really well right now, compared to the rest of us that are all plugged in. Feeding each other's fear, and anxiety. So, um, and so I think to describe as best as I can, because I'm still shaping this concept, um, I think it's just going to be about family, about my friends, about those who I care about in my social circle. If I'm going to try, the left is the ones who think they can influence the world, and you know, they're doing it. They're influencing the world. Um, but the right doesn't. So if you're if this is a battle, if this is a culture battle, the problem I think the right has is we've been fighting on their terms. So let's fight on our terms. Be like, okay, you guys want Hollywood, take Hollywood. You guys want, you know, and I'm not saying we don't pick our battles and this sort of stuff, but I mean as much as possible, because I think when it comes to what the power that they derive from society is in regards to our compliance, right? So, the more of us that stand up and say, I'm not going to play your game anymore, and that's the stuff that, like, people like me have been saying in regards to COVID. It wasn't to say that there aren't diseases and that there aren't coronaviruses and that this one might not be worse than all the ones that we've seen. It's to say that when the science changes because the politics change, that's your clue that it isn't about the science anymore. And this, the kind of the last video I did was about, trying to understand somebody by the consistency. If you break logic, then you're not about logic. Okay, logic, you only use logic when it suits you, when you can, when you're dealing with a logical person and you want to convince them, you find the logical excuse, and that's how liars do it. um, and they'll abandon logic, whenever it feels necessary, whenever it's, the ends do justify the means for the cultural cannibals. So, um, yeah, so I think, you know, when it comes to the strategy, it is just to, because here's the thing, when, okay, so Joe Biden's health czar is a guy who is a girl, and it, you know, I mean, what do you say about that? What are we? I mean, I don't have any hate in my heart for that person. I don't know what to call them. Am I a bad person because I refer to them as a guy or a gal? I mean, I feel bad for them, and yet this isn't a healthy person. And I think this is a sort of a microcosm of of their problem. They're not healthy. They're not healthy. They're they've got problems, and they project. And I've talked about this. I mean, this I've noticed for a long time, and this has been a ongoing theme throughout a lot of my videos. Is if you want to know the truth about somebody, uh, uh, you know, uh, this is sort of wrapped up in this concept of hypocrisy, but usually hypocrisy is reserved for religious people, but it's really consistency. And, I talked a lot about that in my last video, but, um, you know, but typically this is manifest in this concept. And this is what makes it a moral battle too, is that it's the flip side of the golden rule. You're projecting your evil onto somebody else in order for the society. So, it's almost like the insecure kid at school that picks on somebody. They feel bad about themselves, and so they're wanting the classmates to look at them. It's real. It's like it's a real psychological thing uh, that you can spot. Once you spot it, you can't unsee it. It's a pattern, and it happens. This is what evil people do. And so what they claim science when they disavow science. So they claim caring about people when they're not moral at all. They'll throw morality. These are the people that are now attempting to normalize sexual relations with children. So these people are the unhealthy people. And so right now, when you look at the state of our union, you know, uh, the president oftentimes will, when they do the State of the Union address, will say that, their punchline is the state of our union is strong. Um, the state of our union is wrong. I mean, that's where we are. So, um, and it's almost like, well, let them. I feel bad for them to a certain extent. They they're again, they're cultural cannibals, and you see sometimes how this virtue signaling, it's like this race to see who's the best virtue signaler out there. And in order to, and if, just imagine if those on the right began to just check out, and we've tried to do this to some extent, the Parler thing. We try to get our own little thing on the side. So, you know, the left would leave us alone. Of course, they're not going to leave us alone. They're going to come after us. So, I mean, it's always going to be a battle. I don't mean to say like this is some strategy to avoid the war. I'm just saying that if we check out to a great extent, if we don't comply with their stupid rules, their nonsense rules, if we don't um, if we don't buy from these companies that sell misery and um, uh, negativity and disgust and despair, then if in other words, if we can just get more back to basics, if those of us who are still sane can get back to basics and just let these freaks spiral out of control. um I know there's going to be damage, but maybe there'll be something left to rebuild. There is always hope, because what's going on right now is a big spell. um there's a lot of people under a spell. So the truth is I think most people probably aren't freaks and unhealthy, weird. Well, most people's unhealthy probably, but there's hope for them. But the problem is that everybody's inundated with social media to the point, and that's why the left really wants to control that, because they want to keep people in this malaise of of unhealthiness, and so they think being unhealthy is normal. And so then you don't know you can't solve a problem unless you accurately diagnose that you have a problem. And sometimes you have to see normal, to know that you're abnormal. And then we all have our problems, right? This isn't throwing stones. This is saying, this is how you figure out life. This is how you figure out, um, where you are. It's not about envy, but if you see somebody who's got something going right that you admire, you can live. It gives you something to live up to. So in other words, we can pick each other up instead of dragging each other down. So you see the trajectory involved here. And these are the two lifestyles, the two cultures that we have. So this yin and yang, this pull that's taking place in our society. So I think as far as polarization goes, all right, great, let's do this. Let's just be polarized because, I mean, what's the alternative, right? I don't want to be a part of what they've got going on, right? So, to me, it's that simple. I mean, we just need to be healthy. We need to get right with God. We need to get, because I mean, this should be something that's also apparent too, is that, um, we, um, we're, we're in this, we're in this, once you start acknowledging the good and the evil in its stark realities, it becomes all the more difficult to not acknowledge sources for that. Um, I mentioned yin and yang, and I think there might be a tendency for people to go, um, you know, Satan, or God and Satan, right? So, um, I don't want to get biblical, like, or get too preachy, but, um, I don't, I don't feel like that's the proper way to view it. View it instead, and I mean, I'm not acknowledging the role that obviously that God plays, but I'm saying instead of this idea like Satan is almost like this equal force to God, that's not true. Um, God is light and goodness and order. Everything that we experience in our realm that is bad is because it's disorderly, right? So that's what I'm saying, right? Uh, so as much as possible, we need to participate in the order. And this isn't about being religious, this is about finding God where He is in your life. Um, Finding Christ because He is the way to God. He is the only way. Um, because He's the only one that came in the form of humanity in order to provide that path from of man to God. It's not being, I mean, at this point, come on, I mean, uh, in our culture here, this is why the left goes after Christians, right? Um, this is why they're not going on after other religions. This is why they hate Christians. Um, so because it's an acknowledging a truth. You cannot, um, you it's just natural for evil to hate the good. And so that's the war we're in, and so part of the strategy is to be aware that it's a spiritual battle. And again, I don't mean to say religion, because religion is confining, and religion is, um, can be, as much of a problem sometimes as, um, as being an atheist. I mean, you free yourself to chaos and disorder and to be your own god of misery. I mean, what kind of, philosophy to live your life is that? But on the other hand, you don't want to become bound, um, to some rigid ideology for the sake of ideology. But you do want to become bound to order. Um, and you want to find that order and find that peace in life. Um, so something, I don't know how much time I could spend on this, but um, I just when it comes to, I just, I think I'll just leave it right there. Um, I think I just leave it right there. Instead of getting into what I think, I might do another video about what I think's kind of going on behind the scenes of everything, and what, certain facts, are going on. But I think right now it's good to just say, no matter what happens, no matter what happens, I don't want to be a part of that. I think that everybody knows, a lot of people are realizing where they stand, and that's one of the things that I'm trying to get across here is that, so stand where you are. You know which side you're on. I'm probably not talking to the people um, who are like big transgender. If you're a big Biden supporter, I mean, I'm probably not talking to you. You may think this is great, but I think we're gonna see, and some people I think may think, they may have voted for Biden, they may have bought the whole programming, the social programming, um, and they may be in hook, line, and sinker, and maybe now, with the fact that Biden's like 30 something executive orders in, just like wrecking stuff. Um, you know, I mean, some of the stuff I don't even know how you justify. It doesn't even seem like pro left. It almost seems like just anti-American, just anti, job loss. Just, well, that you could say oil's dirty, or anyway. I'm delving into politics too much, but I think I'm just going to keep this one a little bit more on the side of um, focusing on what's important in life. And I think that's the main thing. Focus on what's important in life. Get right with God, and focus on your family. Just focus on the days you have on this. You're here. Be that blessing, because the world's a miserable place. And don't participate in the misery, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that's, the last video I was like trying to, what do I do? That was a little bit of where I was at. And now I think I'm getting a little bit more clarity on that, which is to say, I know right from wrong, and it's stark right now. So that's a positive, and it makes sense for us to just take a stand where we are, and it's easy, just don't participate in their nonsense and their misery. So that's pretty much all I've got to say. And so hopefully y'all got something out of there. Someone did. And if you liked it, share it, or and like. So until next time, talk to you later.